If you've been wanting to try dip, then this is going to be the video for you. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. Today, I am giving you a beginner's guide to dipping your nails at home. So the first thing you want to start with is pushing back your cuticles. And we do that to expose any of the excess skin that's stuck on the nail plates. Then you can get either a glass cuticle pusher like I'm using, or you can use a nail drill bit if you're a little bit more experienced. Then you want to make sure that you take a buffing block and buff the shine off your nails, and then you wipe it with alcohol. The reason why my nails look a little bit shiny instead of looking very matte is because I use peel base in between my natural nail and the dip powder. Since you'll be dipping directly on your natural nails, obviously you'd skip that step. And what you'd want to do is do one layer of dip base over your entire nail on all of your nails and let that dry. That's going to help your dip adhere better to your natural nails. You want to push your cuticles back. This is going to help you to get close to your cuticles without flooding them. The goal for each layer of our dip is to keep the dip base as thin as we possibly can while still covering your nail. And then what I like to do is, if I'm using a shimmer or solid, I like to pour the powder over. So I'm sure you've probably seen in videos where people are dipping their nails right into it. That works for some people, but for a majority of us, especially if you're a beginner, you're just going to end up with clumpy nails. A lot of the people who you see doing that on nail videos, they've been doing their nails for years. So it's easy for them to make it look like they can get their layers really nice and thin dipping your nail in. But I would recommend, if you're a beginner, to pour your powder over. And you know what? To be honest, I've been doing my nails for dipping for almost 5 years, and I still like to pour the powder over. For me, it just allows me to keep the layers thinner. So when you're dipping your nails, it is better to have a higher number of thinner layers than a lower number of thicker layers. You do not want thick layers. What typically happens when your layers are thick is that your dip doesn't last as long. It tends to crack, it tends to peel off easier. Anytime that I'm doing a dip near my cuticles, I could take an orange wood stick or some kind of pointy nail tool and trace around my nail after each dip. So that's going to make sure that you're not getting any dip liquids or dip powders stuck on your skin right off the bat, because the goal is to keep the liquids and the powders on your nail. The more that you get the liquids and powder on your skin, the more likely it is that you're going to get early lifting. And after you're trying so hard to learn how to, dip your nails and do this new skill, you definitely want to do all the tricks that you possibly can to keep it on as long as you can. These two gorgeous colors that I'm using today are from CN Designer Dips, called Cheeky and Tropical Opal. And then once I show you how to dip this shimmer, we're going to talk about dipping chunky glitters. One thing that I like to make sure that I do when I have really short nails is make sure that my entire nail is covered by the dip base. And sometimes what happens on the first dip is I miss a little bit of the sides because I'm trying really hard not to flood the sides of my nails with any dip liquids. So sometimes I'll miss a little bit of the sides. Then on my second layer of color, I like to really make sure that all of my nail is covered with that. Now, if you find that 3 layers is probably not going to be enough for you, what you can do is you can start with 1 layer of clear, then do 2 layers of color, and then you can finish with a layer of clear. So I actually have a really thin layer of builder gel down on my natural nails, so I don't have to do that first layer of clear. A lot of people find that they need at least 4 layers of dip powder so that their nails don't chip or crack. So that's just another tip that you can use when you're dipping your own nails. And we are dipping this gorgeous, gorgeous chunky glitter that has glitter pieces and foils, all kinds of goodness in it. Anytime that I'm dipping a chunky glitter, what I like to do is I like to pour it into one of these dip cups. So all of my really cool nail accessories you see here, the little dip cups I'm using, the finger rest, the bottle holder, those are all from SJ3 Designs. And everything that I use in my videos, I always link in the description in case I don't say what I'm using. I like to pour my glitter into one of those dip cups. Then I can really shake it around and get the pieces that I want on my nail for each dip. So my goal for the first dip for chunky glitter is to lay my nail flat onto it and just pick up a little bit of the base of the actual glitter. And then on the second dip for my chunky glitters, that's when I like to pick up way more of the big chunky glitter pieces. That helps to keep my nails from being super thick. I do not like big chunky nails. One of the nice things about using one of these dip cups is that you can really like shake the glitter around so you pick up the pieces that you want. And then I like to go through and just add a couple pieces anywhere where it looks like some are missing. So because there was like a whole bunch of different kinds of glitter and foil in this chunky glitter dip, I just added some extra dip base to any areas that looked a little too empty. And then I stuck on some extra pieces of the foil, some extra pieces of the big chunky glitters, and that really helps to fill your nail in without having to go through and do an entire other layer. You will literally never see me going and doing 3 layers of a chunky glitter. If I ever do 3 layers of a color, it's gonna be a solid or a shimmer that I just felt like maybe I wanted a little bit more of. But if I'm doing a chunky glitter or flake or a foil, I'll just go in and add extra pieces to it so that it fills in and gives it the look I want. And especially with a chunky glitter like this that has glitter pieces and foils in it, I love being able to hand place pieces to really make it look how I want. Since I'm a bit of a messy dipper, I had some of the glitter and foil pieces kind of fly out of my dip cup. So rather than like nicely trying to grab them from inside the dip cup, I just picked up a couple of the pieces that were already laying on my nail mat that I used there and just went with those to be able to fill in the nail, to fill in the glitter where I felt like, you know, there were some chunky glitter pieces missing, or maybe it needed a cute little foil. If you're super particular, you can pour them out onto SJ3 also has these really cute little flexible plates that you can pour the extra glitter out and put it on that if you want to hand place a little bit nicer. Sometimes the things that I tend to do in videos aren't always the smartest, so I like to talk about like what I did wrong or anything, or like if I was just being lazy and all my flexible plates were out of reach, so I just didn't grab them. Now, something that you definitely want to do when you're dipping your nails, every single layer that you do, once that layer is dry, you want to take a stiff nail brush like the one I used, and you want to brush off any excess powder before you go to your next layer. That is going to help you keep your nails from getting super thick. It's going to get off all that excess powder so they don't get lumpy too. My absolute must too for doing dip nails is doing clear as your last layer. I know everybody does not do this, but I am a huge proponent of doing clear for your last layer. You just did all that work to get your dips to lay nice, whether it's a solid shimmer flake foil, like glitter foil, like this one I'm using. So you want to protect them, and doing clear as your last layer is going to protect your color or your glitter, whatever you're using. It's going to protect it when you buff, shape, and file. So especially when you're doing glitters, flakes, and foils, it's super important. And for me, I just find that doing it as my last layer keeps my colors looking so much more vibrant. Now, there's a caveat. You definitely want to get a high quality, crystal clear dip powder, okay? Because clears are not made equal. There are going to be some clears that are basically like really cloudy, and then all that work you just did will be for will be ruined because you'll have a cloudy clear. So you definitely want to make sure that you get a high quality clear. I'm using CN's 2020. It is super clear, so I know that I don't have to worry about, you know, I don't have to worry about a cloudy clear when I use theirs. You probably also saw me when I was dipping the chunky glitter. You saw me use a little piece of tape to press the glitters down. Some people like to use their fingers, but I don't like to get any dip base or powder on my skin, so I always use a little piece of tape on one of the fingers of my opposite hand and just press the glitters down. Once you're done with your clear dip powder, you can brush off that excess and then go through and do your activator. And I really like to make sure I have enough activator on because I want to make sure that my nails are hardened the entire way through. once your nails harden, the way you can check how hard they are is if you tap on your nails. So if your nails are hard enough to buff and shape, when you tap on it, it makes a very like tappy, clicky sound. You're like, okay, now my nails are hard enough to buff and shape. You can use one of these big flexible files like I'm using, or you can use a little buffing block, whatever you feel more comfortable with. And the goal is just to smooth out the top of your dip so that your top coat lays nicely. The better that you apply your dip, the less buffing and shaping you're going to have to do. So pouring your powders over, making sure your dip base is nice and thin. And something else that I think is super important that I don't think people talk about enough is using really high quality liquids and powders. So if you use crappy liquids and crappy powders, it's going to be a lot harder to get your nails to look nicer, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. But using high quality powders and liquids is going to make it a lot easier for you. Once you get all your buffing done, they're nice and smooth, you can fix up any of your shaping, and then you want to spray your nails or wipe them with isopropyl alcohol before you go and do your top coating. That is going to make sure that you don't have any dust left on your nails. And this step is really important. Every set of dip liquids that you get should come with its own instructions for top coating. You definitely don't want to use one brand set of top coating instructions for another brand because the timing might be a little bit different. The timing for these CN liquids is different than other brands that I use. So definitely whatever brand of dip powder you're using, make sure you follow their top coating instructions. For CN, you do the top coating one hand at a time and you apply activator to all 5 nails. Then once you get to your 5th nail, count to a minute, and then after that minute's up, go back and do your first layer of top coating with the top coat in 2 to 3 quick thin strokes. And then once you get to your 5th nail, you'll wait another 60 seconds before you go back in with your second layer of top coat. Something that I always do is I float the top coat. So what that means is I'm not pressing the top coat brush hard down into my nail. That really helps me to not contaminate my brushes, and I do that regardless of the brand of dip liquids that I'm using. Definitely when you're first starting, don't be discouraged by the nails that you might see online. You have to remember that a lot of us have been doing our nails for years. Now, if you're ready to learn about how to get beautiful cuticle lines, come check out this next video. Thanks for joining me today, nail crew.